And we're live, beaming to you directly from Sydney, Australia, California in the United States, and upstate New York. Today, we've got our very first three-way live cast with the co-founder of the M21 Challenge, Goldyn Duffy, and we've also got the owner and founder of the 4S for Life Foundation, our good friend Mr. Jacque, who is making his third appearance now on the LiveCast. So today's topic, we are going to be exploring this wonderful in-depth topic of family life and everything that's involved in that. So what I'd like to do is welcome Goldyn and Jacque onto the show. Welcome, guys. How are you today?
Thank you. So good. So good.
Wonderful, Michael. You know me, I'm becoming a regular. This is becoming an occurrence once a month here, you and I doing this.
That's it. And it's wonderful having such great regular coaches, speakers, founders of businesses and movements that are out there making a real difference in the world. And I know you're both very, very popular with our community at The Awakening Point. So thanks very much for making the time for being on today.
Nice. Excited about it.
Now, you're both family people, and it seems that in our interactions, family's always something that keeps coming up again. And I honestly cannot think of anyone better to be exploring this topic of family than the two of you. So where do we get the ball rolling? Where do you feel we should start with this thing, guys?
Ladies first, always, Michael. You know that. We're going to turn the floor over right to Goldyn and put her on the spot.
I love that. Chivalry is not dead, right?
Absolutely not.
I'll just tell you a little bit about my family. I have 4 incredible daughters, amazing women, independent. They've taught me so much about life. I think we tend to mature the most, I think, when we're raising families, because our kids are going to trigger so much in us and they're going to help us to heal. And, if you're a conscious parent, if you're doing it consciously, then you're going to find out so much about yourself. And each child that you have is going to help you to explore more of the things that you need to heal and to express and to let go of and release. I think they have taught me so much about letting go of things that used to drive me crazy, that were so unnecessary, and just to understand that we all have our own journeys. I think this is probably one of the hardest things for a mom and a dad to understand, is that our kids have their own journeys. And when we start to realize that and really understand the higher perspective of things, that we won't try to take away their pain, and we won't try to make sure they don't make mistakes, like that we'll let them and allow them to have their journeys unfold. It's been a huge lesson for me, and it's probably been one of the most challenging things in my life, is just kind of letting them become who they are meant to become. And my daughters are strong women, let me tell you.
And Goldyn, with your M21 challenge, do you find that you're helping in your coaching activities with your clients deal with this side of things, like the family side of things?
Well, if you're a parent and you've never meditated before, or you don't know anything about meditation, M21 is a mindfulness group, and it teaches people how to meditate, but we also do emotional releases, guided meditations, and I do a lot of quantum physics videos and things in there, teaching people about how their belief systems create their life. And if you have belief systems, we form our belief systems before we're 5 years old, and we're also handing down those belief systems to our children. So if you have limiting belief systems, then you're going to create that in your family. So one of my things has been really to learn what my belief systems are, learn which ones are holding me back and don't serve me anymore, and clean those up. And the best way to do that is to become quiet and still, and start to ignite that relationship between you and your inner being, so you can find the answers that are true for you, and you can awaken to the limitless being that you are. And that's what we're doing in M21. And that's why we're calling it a revolution, because in 21 days, you're going to start to release these lower emotions or these lower belief systems, and start to really recognize that you have a lot of control over this journey, and your belief systems are what are going to actually fuel you towards everything that you've wanted to create. So yes, that was a long answer. Yes.
Jacque, you want to weigh in on this one?
Well, seeing that Goldyn doesn't know me very well, I mean, I have 3 boys and a grandson, so...
Oh, I have a granddaughter too. Sorry, I didn't mention that.
So
I have to mention that. Yeah.
All right, you have all girls, I have all boys. So,
how funny.
So I agree with what Goldyn had to say. Very intelligent answer as far as letting your kids, make their own way through life. And just as a parent, you just have to be there just to guide them, not so much to give them all the answers, but just guide them to keep them on the straight and narrow the best you can. I mean, those first 5 years or 6 years, that's our job as a parent, to mold our children and try to instill our values and what's important in life, both good and bad. And I think that's a huge component we're lacking, especially here in the United States. We've dropped the ball a lot as far as from a parenting aspect, or at least that's the way I figure it.
Yep.
Not saying that all parents, but a lot of parents are just eager to push them off on our teachers and our counselors and our coaches in schools and push it off on someone else. And I don't think that's right. I think we've disconnected as a family unit over the last probably 20 or 30 years. We need to find our way back to that and have our kids become productive members of society and the community, because that's our next generation. And we play a major role as a building block in that, in that journey for them. So I think that's where we got lost, especially with males. And I said this to Michael when we had to talk last time. I think fathers need to take more of an initiative, not just as a protector and a provider, but, to be an open book, with your children, not to be afraid to show all emotions, be able to be affectionate, even if you have sons. I give my sons hugs and kisses on the forehead. They're both bigger than I am right now. But they know that they're loved. And you know what? When they go out into their relationships, one is married, the other one gets married in September. They know how to treat women. They know how to treat their friends, because it was the way they were brought up, or at least I like to think that way. So I guess my answer was almost as long as Goldyn's, just from a different angle. That's all.
Yeah. I love that, because it's like we're the living example, and when we become that example and we exemplify what it is to be an upstanding person and an upstanding human in this journey, then they're able to follow suit a lot easier than if we're just distracted by paying the bills and TV and alcohol and drugs and all the other things that people are distracting and dumbing themselves down with, instead of being these conscious creators and teaching our kids from our example how to really live life from the fullest, right? Our fullest potential. So I totally agree with you.
Yes.
There really does seem to be a disconnect within the family unit, and it seems to be becoming more and more disconnected. Just generally speaking, I know I see it here in Australia. I'm sure you guys are seeing it over there in the United States. I'm pretty sure this is something that's happening all around the world. But at the same time, there is also within the right circles a push towards, relationships and reconnecting more on a spiritual way. There seems to be like evolution taking place there. So Goldyn touched on something just then when she was actually saying that families get confused or get distracted with paying the bills and the pressures that come with that. And I know all three of us have got experience where we've had to work through that. So this is a great discussion for the three of us through direct experience as well, where we can share that. What do you guys feel, what are your thoughts on those families that are going to be watching this now or in the coming weeks that really are in a position where they feel overwhelmed, bills are behind, they could be in serious financial trouble, and they've got young children? How can they get through this by still, honoring that family unit and respecting those relationships?
I think it's, not getting lost, not losing sight of what's really important, that our relationships are really important, that the bills are always going to be there. For Mike and I think when we were in that survival mode, and we definitely weren't the best parents we could have been when we were in survival mode, for sure. The second time we did it a lot better. I think the second time we just realized that the amount of faith and trust that we had that things were going to work out is what really carried us through. and being there in partnership, you know, seeing each other through some of our darkest moments and being there for the other person and being that encourager. But I think that people that are going through that, if you could really sit still and be and bring yourself to that point of, they call it zero state awareness in quantum physics. If you could get to that point where there's no noise and there's no distraction, you're going to get a connection with the infinite energy that is going to fuel you towards that faith and trust, that's going to help you to stop being so worried and concerned and fearful, which is actually creating your financial situation. So I don't know, I'm a huge advocate of learning and expressing and finding out exactly what my beliefs are and what I need to believe to become an abundant person. And that has been my journey over the last 10 years, is to figure that out. And I feel like I'm getting there. Definitely not totally there, but I do feel like I'm getting there. I can see around me a lot of abundance. So I know the reflection of what's going on within me is way more abundant than it's ever been. I'm not giving into lack anymore. And that's a huge lesson for our kids, to teach them that they live in an abundant universe.
That is an important lesson. So you're pretty much, your own experience, especially the second time around, was that you stayed connected to the bigger picture. You didn't let that little picture completely consume you, and that's probably why you guys did it much better that second time around.
Yes, and staying connected to messages, you know, like the positive messages that you're putting out and that Jacque's putting out, like the positive messages that are going on in the world, instead of focusing on the news and the gloom and doom or the bank account that doesn't make you feel good. Find things that are going to put those messages in your awareness that is more about your ability to create than it is about what you're seeing in front of you. Because the physical takes a little while to catch up with your emotional. So the more your responses are calm and relaxed and filled with that faith and trust, the more the universe is going to show you evidence of that.
Jacque? Well, that's a hard act to follow, man. No, it's a hard act to follow. It's making it difficult on me. I think that all three of us have strong support systems. A lot of people don't have that. Obviously, Mike, you have Trace. Goldyn has Michael, and I have Katrina, obviously. And we've been together almost 13 years. We've been through similar circumstances to Goldyn and Michael. We've been through a lot of hard times. But yet we're still standing strong. We just got married, as Michael knows, in March.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, I mean, after 12 years, if you can make it through all those hardships, and you just have to try to rely on each other and pull the other one through, you sort of lift the other one up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you're dealing with children, you don't want to have all of your the issues that are bothering you come out in the forefront to them. You want to try, not that you're lying or hiding it from them, but you don't want to make them susceptible to all of that, because you know what, they have enough issues growing up as children just to be children, that they don't have to worry about mom and dad paying the bills, or you know what, we're all putting food on the table. All our children have a roof over their heads. You know, they have love and affection and support within the family system, and that's the most important thing. I said to Michael, I think the first time we were on, after losing my father, I put life in a whole different perspective. And I didn't worry about the monetary stuff, the material things. And I still say to my friends now, if I died tomorrow, I'd be a happy man. I have 3 awesome children. I have a grandchild. I have a woman that loves me. I have a roof over my head. I have all of the things that I need in life. And I've accomplished more than I've ever thought I would set out to do, that I am content where I am. And I'm comfortable within myself. I don't meditate so much, but I do yoga. And yoga is very soothing and relaxing for me, and it takes me to a better place. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I just shield your kids from some of that stuff. And you know what? If your relationship is strong, you can get through anything. The money will be. My sister always told me that for some weird reason, that when you need the money, somehow it'll be there. Not meaning that you're going to win the lottery, you're going to get a windfall. Just somehow, if you honestly believe, it'll be there when you need it. You concentrate on the other things, which is your family unit, which is the most important thing, you know, as far as I'm concerned. So there's your rebuttal to Goldyn's, or at least I can't even say rebuttal. That's
it's good.
We have very similar points, and you know, and it's great to see that we all have, believe in the same same aspects of life, the things that we want for our children, the things that we want for ourselves and our families. I think we're on the same page. So,
absolutely.
And when it comes to like Goldyn, you're big on conscious creating. When it comes to this hour of darkness that some people find themselves in, they're in depression. They feel like there's honestly no way out. They've backed themselves into a corner. They're starting to feel shut off from their friends, isolated. This is hard enough when someone is single, let alone people that are single parents, that are dealing with this, that may have 2-3 children. Every day they've got to get up, maintain everything, put on that brave face for the little ones. Those people, a lot of us tend to forget the power that we have, even in that situation, to choose to create a way out. I think we should touch on that a little bit for that side of the audience.
Well, the darkness is all part of the light. And when I recently, actually, in the last month or so, I've gone through some really challenging times emotionally, and they didn't really make a lot of sense if you looked at my life. It's like when you sit there and go, okay, I've got, just like Jacque said, I have everything. I have a beautiful, loving family. I have an incredible house, an incredible marriage. And I would just wake up and just have this darkness over me. And I think in those moments, if you can realize that, fighting it is going to it's resistance when you're in resistance to it. So I just let myself be. And I think that's something people don't allow themselves to do a lot. They'll fight the feelings, or, they'll go through life feeling angry and resentful that they have to do what they have to do. But if instead you can just be present with those feelings, because all of our emotions are valuable. They're all a window into the healing that we are being called to. So as you take that darkness and you allow yourself to just sit with it and be with it and allow it to work itself through you, you're going to come out on the other side with so much more joy and so much more appreciation for life, because you went through that time. It's like, when you get a really good flu. I actually had the flu recently too, so I'm hitting all the bases. When you have a really good flu and then you feel really good again, it's like you didn't realize how good you really feel every day until you didn't feel good. So it's the contrast in life that's calling us to more. And those lower, darker times are the times where you're being called to more. You're being called to look within and sift through that stuff and allow it to be released, because we all have like traumatic experiences and emotional stuff that happened to us when we were younger. All that stuff is still in us. And all the, times we went through financial struggle, that's all still within us. So as we go into those places and start to sift and sort it out and start to release it, I do a lot of emotional release work with people, and I actually do my own work with my own person to do this emotional release work. And when I tell you the healing process and the expansion that you get from that is way better than 100 days of happiness. Like, I can't even express the contrast of that, because it's like you're letting in more joy. You're accessing more joy when you walk through those dark times. So they're necessary. They're part of our journey. They're important. They're part of our expansion and learning more about who we really are inside and what our worthiness really is. I think it's a flushing of worthiness, of unworthiness, if you can really get in touch with what it is. But most people won't do that. Most people just get lost in social media or distractions and TV. And I see a lot of alcohol consumption, which I used to be I don't want to say a big drinker, but I was, I love to have a good time. I love to have a glass of wine. I love to, let loose and get a buzz. But when it becomes your daily activity, you're not going to be able to get in touch with that deeper part of yourself. And that's been something I've learned in the last few years. That was a tangent, sorry. I mean to knock alcohol.
Why do you think people fall into that trap, Goldyn?
I mean, it's easy. Our world is so noisy. Our world is so noisy, so distracting, more distracting than it's ever been in the history of history. We are just incredibly distracted. I mean, look at people on their phones. I have a hard time with my phone, and I'm conscious and awake, you know? How many times you find yourself just scrolling for no good reason other than, you know, I don't know, distraction. So we have to be really awake and really conscious to that and make decisions for ourselves based on a discipline, you know, a discipline to our growth, a discipline to our journey, and really wanting to get them. I just want to get the most out of this life. You know, not necessarily like the most wealth or success or fame. I want to get the most out of my human experience and love and expansion and family and just relationships.
Absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people are really resonating with this. I'm getting excellent responses here already.
Good.
I think because all three of us have been through, you know, baptisms of fire. I think all three of us have done the Phoenix thing, you know, crashed and burned and risen from the ashes. And because the three of us are family people, we've got that behind us. I think that there's a really, really good message here for everyone. Jacque, I know with your foundation, you deal with some pretty heavy stuff when you come in and help families in desperate you know, times of darkness where they lose a child or something like that. So I'm sure you've got something to add to this now from that perspective.
Oh, absolutely. You know, as I said to you when we talked the last time, that there's a lot of times that I'll come home from an event and I need to sort of cleanse my soul. So I sit down with Katrina and I sort of unload all the emotions that I took on, whether it be, you know, I could use a 9-year-old boy that had stage 4 cancer, to a veteran dealing with PTSD, to someone dealing with heroin addiction. I mean, that's where I've learned to sort of realize what I had, that there was always somebody that had it worse. You know, I didn't realize that 20 years ago. Obviously, you're 25, but you have the life, you know, you have the world by the balls. No offense, Goldyn, but you know what I mean. You have the world in your hands. You have everything right there in front of you, where you feel like you're untouchable, you're unbeatable. Nothing's going to stop me. And then as you get older and we start losing friends and family members and people that are younger than us, that we went to school with, and it makes you look at things in a different perspective. So when I went and did the foundation and I started doing the events, time after time, I've been brought to tears, or I've brought somebody to tears. And to know that you can touch somebody that way, that may have changed that person's life. It may have saved that person's life. And I always use the motto, I try to change the world one person at a time. You're never going to do it a million people at a time. You have to take one person, and they won't become a statistic because of something you said or some way or manner or form that you helped them out. I know Michael knows my background. I mean, Goldyn, a little bit about me and the trials and the tribulations that I've been through. I've lost both parents to cancer. Obviously, my mother was 47 when she passed in 91. Just lost my dad 5 years ago. I've lost a cousin to a heroin overdose. I've lost 3 friends to PTSD by ending their own lives. My grandmother was a victim of domestic violence. I have a nephew with Down syndrome, and I myself tried to commit suicide twice over the last 10 years. So my wife was the one that stopped both attempts. So I've been where we were just talking, and you alluded to it with Goldyn. I have been to the deepest, darkest pit that you could possibly be in as a just one single person alone. And you get in that mode, and it doesn't matter who's around. You have tunnel that you see just what's in front of you, and that's it. And it's normally just a big black hole. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. It's nothingness. It's just space. And, you know, as many people want to help and you try to drag out, like Goldyn said, there's so many negative things going on in the world that even if you get into a rut like that now, or you get into that bad spot, you open the newspaper, you turn on the news, and it just brings you down even further. There's no positivity on our news anymore. There's so much bad going on in the world and so much hate. And I said this to Michael both times that everyone wants to compartmentalize people. You're black, you're white, you're gay, you're lesbian, you're small, you're fat, you're tall, whatever. Why do we do that? We're all people. And what did I say, Michael, if you remember this? What does every human being want in life? Do you remember the answer to that?
I think I do, to be loved.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Every human being, I don't care who you are, you want to know that somebody cares. That's what everybody wants out of life. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that some people don't see it that way. It bothers me to see these, and I go back to the parents. It bothers me to say, I don't have time. These kids become statistics. You go through bullying and depression and opioid addiction and suicide, and the prison population goes up, and they say, well, I don't have any time. You don't have 15 minutes out of every day to take your kids. You can't take a walk or read a book or just sit down and chat with them. I mean, I don't understand that. You both have children, and I'm sure you both take time. I know, Michael, you do. We've had this discussion. My kids are my world. If God forbid something happened to one of my sons, I don't know that I can come back from that. And that's the God honest truth. I honestly don't know that I can come back from that. And I see people. I've done 2 events here, and there was people fighting over money at these events. This was fundraisers for services, and their main concern was who was getting the money. And that really, really tore me to the core. That made me feel, at that point, I almost didn't want to do some of these benefits. I mean, it rocked me to the core that people are that selfish. And it goes back to money. It's all about who, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. Your child or your grandchild or stepchild, whatever, is dead, laying there in a coffin, and you're worried about because you didn't get $10 or $100 or whatever. That's amazing. That just blows my mind that people can be that self-centered and money be the root of everything. It bothers me.
Well, it's just I think that it's just an unconsciousness, It's like I can look at my life. I've been estranged from my biological family for about 6 or 7 years now. And I can look at that situation and I can say, it's tragic. Or I can look at the situation and say, because of that situation, I am who I am. And because of all the things that you've been through, it's like, now you are who you are, and you are so conscious because of that. And you're dealing with a society who, on the average, most people are unconscious. So we're on this journey to wake people's asses up,
right,
and to show them that, there's more to life than money. And if they want to be petty about money, you taking yourself out of that, not allowing it to pull you down a road of negativity that's like, this is all for nothing. But just to realize that people are who they are, and they've grown up with what they've grown up, and you're way far ahead of the journey than most.
Well, that's why even now I refocused the brand and the message, not so much about the money raising aspect. Now it's a little more about the awareness. That goes with my podcast, with what I do with Michael. Now it's all about, because the money will always be there. People are going to support you, and you want to build something. Yes. The money will come when they buy into what you are talking about. And that's what you need to start attracting, especially the youth. Because if you get the kids involved, the parents will follow. They see their kids involved in something positive. Yep. They will come, and that's where you're going to get all that. If you really look for that monetary support, that's where it'll come. So now it's just about bringing this to the limelight. All these things that we're talking about, family values, suicide, opioid, bullying, depression, whatever it may be. And these kids go to school. I mean, I don't remember going to school having a metal detector in my school or getting patted down in my school. I mean, that wasn't something I worried about. No. And these kids nowadays, I mean, they don't know how to react when someone pulls a gun and hear a gunshot. A lot of them don't even know what a gunshot sounds like. Yeah. And, look, we just had one in Santa Fe, Texas.
Crazy.
And then, they said there's one school shooting a day a week in the United States.
It's crazy.
One school shooting per week. Michael, it's got to blow your mind, because I'm sure you don't see that in Australia.
No, we don't.
No,
we don't.
Well, and the boggling thing is, like, and I don't totally want to get off on this, but it's just that they can't figure it out. It's like there's something that has gone terribly wrong, and they can't figure it out. And metal detectors are not the answer. Like, there's a core problem here that we need to address. And my instinct is that it's emotional stuff. Like, we've got to get in touch with these kids' emotions at a very young age, or even in high school now, and start teaching them how to deal with emotions, because they don't know how to.
Yeah, I think. I agree with you. I think part of the problem, some of it is when you get these kids, especially the ones that are involved in these shootings, that everyone turns around and it's almost like it's not my fault. I didn't do it. I didn't see the sign.
Yeah,
somebody had to see the sign. Somebody had to see the sign somewhere. I mean, he just didn't wake up in the morning and decide, oh, here's a good idea. I'm going to pick up an AR-15 and go in and kill 15 people. It just didn't happen overnight.
No.
So that's where it comes back to the disconnect, where, you know what, the parents and the teachers and everyone that is a mentor to children has to come together and reconnect to make sure our kids don't become statistics. I mean, this is getting way out of hand. Bullying, not to get off on the whole thing, but bullying stems a lot of this stuff. These kids are picked on, or there's violence in their household, or there's these, again, it goes back to the kids absorb so much. Their minds are like sponges from the time they're born to the time they're kindergarten age. They absorb everything, and they remember that. It sticks in there. So if you grew up in a household where, we'll say hypothetically, there's violence, and you move forward, and as you progress into friendships and relationships, and you don't handle violence was okay when dad and mom were doing it, so I guess it's okay when I get into my relationship. Hate breeds hate, violence breeds violence, bullies breed bullies. We have to break the cycle. The whole thing is breaking the cycle. Yeah,
we got to wake people up. That's what we need to do.
I agree, and I'm hoping this is the starting point right here, where they see not just, say me doing my thing, or Michael doing his, or you doing, 3 people coming together from different ends of the world. I mean, Australia, California, New York. 3 total opposite ends of the thing. All have solid families. We're all well in where we are, and we feel comfortable with who we are as people, as fathers and mothers, and mentors or teachers, or whatever we want to consider ourselves. We're doing our part, and we need more people to join in and do this and do these type of things.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Mike McGrath put up a message just about 30 seconds ago saying lack of love. And I think that we have touched on that, and I'd like to explore that now for the next 5 or 10 minutes, that there really is a lack of love in the world, and there's a lack of emotion. Both Goldyn and you, Jacque, touched on this just in the last 10 minutes or so, that there is some sort of a lack of emotion or feeling within, not just the young people, but the older ones as well.
Oh, Harry, let me chime in on this one first, Goldyn. Just from
Go for it.
My perspective, as I said to Michael on the last one, my problem is with the male side of it, and it agitates me as a father and as a male that we don't take enough time with our sons, especially our sons, because the male's vision of themselves is to be the alpha male, I'm the toughest dog on the porch, and we have to be tough men. And we don't teach them how to love and to be compassionate and to be affectionate and be that's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to show all your range of emotions. We'll say 50%. We won't say most. 50%, half of all males will say that crying is a sign of weakness. Okay? That's bullshit. Sorry for the language, but that's bullshit. I've taught my boys that it's okay. I've cried in front of my sons, my wife, my best friends. Doesn't bother me at all. Crying is cleansing of the soul. Obviously, your body needed that for a reason, whatever you may be going through, and it is okay to do that. And more men have to be willing to do that. Give your son a hug. Give your son a kiss on the forehead. Tell him you love him. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's where I think a lot of that disconnect, especially from fathers and their sons, not so much fathers and daughters, but fathers and sons. Because most of the people that are getting in trouble nowadays are young males. And why? Because they don't have proper father figures in their lives. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree with that.
Take it away.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny though, when you said that, I thought about my husband, because he grew up in a divorced family and wasn't super close to his dad. His dad's an amazing, wonderful man, but growing up, he did not have the example of love that he is with our daughters. And I think, again, it comes back to this being awake and conscious. And in order for us to love, we have to love ourselves. There has to be an element of self-love. And when we, take the time to figure out who we are and to actually be on a journey of self-exploration and self-realization, which we've all done, we're all on this journey, sifting and sorting and figuring out, what's my calling and what's my passion and where am I going to be best of service in this world. Through all of that, there's an element of self-love that we have, that we actually are giving that gift to our children, if we have it. If we're not paying attention and we're completely unconscious to that, all those wounds, all those experiences, all that damage that was done when we were younger. I was in an abusive household. I had a brother who beat me up constantly. If we don't do that work and we don't find that healing, then I have clients that will never cry. As deep as we've gone and as challenged as they've been, there's still this protective layer around them because they think vulnerability is weakness. and they think crying is weakness. And this is women. I'm talking about women, not just men that I work with. So I have to keep coming back to this, like waking up and being conscious about our own self-love, our own self-journey. Because if you don't have love for yourself, you're not going to have love to give anybody else. And I think in my own perspective as a parent, the more love that I have found for myself, the more I've been able to give that gift to my daughters, and to watch them explore that within themselves, and to realize that they love themselves enough to go within and get their own answers and say no to people when they want to say no, instead of being these, doormats. So again, I keep coming back to this, like, it all starts within. It's all about your inner journey and finding out who you really are, because we can't give love that we don't feel or that we don't have.
No, I agree with you 100%. I just take it a little harder from the male aspect, because, women do have that, they're born with that compassion. And a lot of them are born where males aren't males. Again, it always goes back to that, well, you just need to protect and provide. Well, no, there's a lot more to being a father. Let's be honest. There's no handbook on raising children. We all know that. There's no parent's handbook. You sort of just learn as you go. And I'm
trying to write one, but I keep changing it.
And we make our own, we make mistakes just like our kids make mistakes. And you know what? I've always said that I've been open with all my, with my sons, and anything they've ever asked me, I've never hid anything. I don't care how heinous I may think it is. I've never done anything, don't get me wrong, I'm not like a felon or something, but, it's just anything they've asked me, I've been open with them, because I feel if you're open with your children, you're honest with your children, they will feel comfortable coming back to you when they have an issue. It doesn't matter what kind of issue it is, and they'll feel comfortable knowing that you shared all of that with them. Then they're going to go, hey, listen, Dad went out and he told us all this, or Mom did. I feel comfortable going about and talking to whatever it may be. And I think that open dialogue definitely helps that parent-child relationship, again, building forward. But I agree with you. Self-love, if you don't love yourself and you're not confident in who you are and what you're trying to accomplish in this life, then no, you cannot pass it on to others. So I agree with you 110%. That was a great point.
Yeah, and I agree with you about open communication. I mean, that has been the secret to our success with our girls, is like communicating, being compassionate, understanding that we all have this journey. We're all going to make mistakes, and, seeing them as people and not as these little beings that we just tell what to do all the time.
It doesn't work anyway, so.
It doesn't. Let's face it. I think Michael has more luck with that, but his kids are younger.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's got an easy path right now. He's got a few more years.
Yeah, I've lost all control. Let's face it. It's not even. You know what? It's like I've gotten to the point, and I remember this with my older girls. They're 25 and 24, where I just don't want to be that nag anymore. It's exhausting, and it's like I love them, and if their rooms are a mess, then you know what? The rooms are a mess. I will mention it, but I'm not gonna conduct my relationship based on what they're doing or not doing for me. That was something that I really cleaned up. That was huge, because I always felt like I was a pleaser with my mom. I always did a lot of things for her so that she would be pleased with me, because that was how I got love. But that's not how my kids receive love from me. It's much more unconditional. So that was a recent finding, that I didn't need them to do everything I say in order for me to have a good, clean, loving relationship with them.
Well, one of mine's married, the other one's getting married. I just told their other halves that they're your problem now. I said, I already gave my years. They're your good luck. There's a no return policy. It's like the lemon law on cars.
Oh, I love that.
30
I love
days,
that.
You're out. See ya.
We always say that about one of our kids. We're like, God bless the man that marries her.
I said that too about my sons. I'm like, I
won't say which one, but yeah, we definitely, we may have said it about all of them at one time.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Goldyn, you're a coach. You work with people on these issues, and you help them through, you help them through this territory. Now, you being a coach yourself and going through this interaction with your teenage daughters, I mean, when we're talking personal growth, how rich is this territory for you yourself, working through this, letting go of the control that you were mentioning, in getting your daughters to maybe do what you want them to do, like cleaning their rooms or whatever. And how much of a challenge is this for you personally? Kind of like as a coach, as an authority in this field, tell us a little bit about your own challenges every day with this.
Well, and that's funny that you should say that, because, there have been times where, I'll come to this place and I'll go, do I have the authority to speak on this? I think what makes my journey so impactful is that I've done this twice now. So we have a 25 and a 24-year-old, both girls, and our little ones now are not little, they're 16 and 14. But so we've done it twice. And now coming through this a second time, I have such higher perspective on everything. And because of the work that I do within myself, I'm able to see, I'm able to stop myself from doing really unconscious behaviors with them. And all of the clients that I have, everyone that I coach about kids, I can see directly my link between what I went through with my older two and the incredible advice I'm able to offer now, because of the journey that I've gone through and being able to do it not so great, I feel like, with my older two, although they're incredible human beings. So I don't know if I could even say that I did a bad job with them, because their journey was their journey, and I was I had a certain amount of consciousness when I was parenting them that is different than what I have now. So I think that's important. That's a deep message there. Our parents, give us what they're able to give us from where they are in their moment in life. That helps me to not be resentful, and it helps me to be very forgiving. That what you do on your journey, when you feel like you made these big giant mistakes, or you feel like you did a bad job with something, or you've got guilt and shame around, a relationship or something, it's like you had a certain amount of information, you had a certain amount of consciousness at that time. And that softens the journey for me. That softens what I've been through and helps me to be more forgiving towards myself, and to realize that every single day I wake up with these people all around me is another opportunity for me to, get it right. What is getting it right? I don't know. Do it better. I'm always trying to do it better. I don't always do it perfect, but you know what? They know that. And they also know that I really own it when I don't do it right. And I think that's what makes all of our relationships so special, is that we're able to come to one another and apologize or explain why we said what we said. And, I'm always forever telling them about my, psychological journey. Now, you fighting with your sister triggers me, because my brother used to beat me up. When you guys ever get physical with each other, it makes me see red, because I had to endure a lot of that as a kid. So I think helping them to understand that has definitely healed our family in a lot of different ways. I don't know if I answered your question. Did I?
That was
Hopefully
really good, because it brings us to the point of acceptance. It brings us to that thing, that door that we walk through, and the reason why I'll say it again, I love having people like yourselves on the show, is because this show is really all about authenticity. It's all about giving people a kind of behind the scenes look at people who they might see as authorities, but the people that are in that position don't see themselves as that. So it kind of gives people a viewpoint, a very human viewpoint. And I think what you were touching on there, Goldyn, it's so humble and transparent, authentic, honest. It's just beautiful having people like yourselves that are in the positions that you're in, that can speak so freely. I think that's what people really appreciate. And you touched on acceptance really there with the girls. Like, what is it that we're doing right or wrong? What is right? What is wrong? Maybe in the family context, we do wrong when we don't accept. What do you guys think on that?
Well, it's funny, Mike and I will have these conversations all the time, and we'll look at other parents and what they're doing with their kids and maybe how they're responding to our kids. We've had a couple of different situations, and I'm like, I'm going to have to say this, but teenagers are assholes. Like, they are. And you know what? if we expect them to be anything different than an asshole, then we're setting ourselves up for, a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
Because the reality is they only think about themselves, and we expect them to think about us, and we take all the shit that they're doing personally, and it's like, no, they're really just assholes. Like, they are going through a point in their life where they only think about themselves, and their moods are gonna, their moods and their hormones have so much to do with the way that they're responding and reacting to the world and to us, that you just have to give them a pass sometimes, and sometimes you got to give them a hug when they're being that way. And that's what transforms your relationship with a teenager or an adolescent, is just to be that person and say, you know what, I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood, and the thing that makes it worse is when somebody points it out and starts yelling at me and telling me I shouldn't feel that way. It's like, okay, you feel that way. It's okay. It's all right. It's not to say that, I let my kids walk all over me and yell at me. I don't agree with that. I'll let them know when they're going too far and I don't like the way they're speaking to me. But, I'm not going to make it worse. I'm not going to make it worse. Definitely not. I try. And every day I get up and I try harder, But they teach us a lot, and I'm forever grateful for the journey of learning so much about myself and what, what it is to raise a powerful human being, and a human being who knows who they are and knows that their journey is limitless. I mean, that's to give your kid that message, to show your kids that they're able to manifest stuff and to express in a way that, creates, I think is, oh my God, it gets me so excited when I see them do, my older kids especially, because they totally get it now and they totally listen to me. Oh, I know what I want to say. The other thing I want to say is I want to take the pressure off of people, because and maybe this isn't who Jacque was talking about, the parents that aren't paying attention, but the ones who are paying attention, we put way too much pressure on ourselves. And I think for my clients, one of the best things I've given to them is to take that pressure off and to say, you know what, you're doing a good job, because we don't give ourselves credit. We beat ourselves up for a lot. And I think just to take that pressure off and recognize that we're all learning and growing together on this journey. And just because your child isn't, cleaning their room every day does not mean you're a failure.
Absolutely. And that acceptance, really allows the other person to express themselves freely without fear, especially if they're the type of person that really is someone that's affected by other people's opinion of them. To let that person feel in their heart that they're free to think and act as themselves, that's good and that they're going to be accepted, especially a young person, especially a teenager. Wow, that's like so empowering.
Totally empowering. Totally.
Oh, you waiting for me to say something? Is that what it was? I have awkward silence there. I don't know.
Jump in, Mr. Jacque.
I don't know. She's a hard act to follow at times, man. I'm telling you.
No.
No, you are. But that's not a bad thing. No, it's not a bad thing. No, I agree with you. I always said that seeing my middle son right now with his son and the way he raises him, when he comes over and he brings my grandson over, and I just sort of watch him and how he is. And I'll tell you, my son is an amazing father. And to me, the way I look at it is that's a payoff that somewhere along the line, I instilled something in him that carried on down the road, and that makes me really proud to look at him. And I look at those generations, Goldyn can attest, I look at my sons and my grandson, that's that family, the family's growing and it's going in the right direction. And I know my son's doing the right thing. I don't need to step in. It's not my place. It's his son. And I want him to raise him the way I would never, I'll give him advice if he asks, but I never try to overstep that and say, no, I do it this way. No, like Goldyn said, they have to find their own way. And you have to allow them to do that. At some point, you have to sort of let them, as they say, let them out of the nest and let them go out on their own and do their own thing. That's the only way they're going to learn to be, a competent adult, a good member of society and community. And these kids nowadays are going to be our community leaders, our foundation creators, our coaches, people that do Awakening Point 2 when you're going, Awakening Point 2.0 or whatever it may be called. But no, I agree with a lot of what Goldyn said. That's great coming from a parent of 4 girls. God bless you, because man, 1 girl would be too much for me. I think. I don't know, man. I've always heard girls are tougher than boys.
Yeah, it's the roller coaster ride.
My sister was. Hey, my sister's the oldest, and she's a pain in the ass still.
Yeah.
She's like the hard-nosed, toughest one out of all. So you don't mess with my sister. We don't. We don't screw around with her. I agree with everything that you said, and they're very strong points. And just let your children be. You can't come down on them, like you said. There is no right or wrong, or we don't know. No one knows what's right or wrong. Every day that you get up, everything that you do within the day is a choice. By the time whatever foot you put on the floor first, to what finger you use to rub your eye, to anything that you do every day, every second of every day is a choice. It's a 50-50 choice. Who's to say what's right and what's wrong? We can't look at our kids and say, well, I'm right and you're wrong just because I'm an adult and I've been through this. You haven't been through what they're going through.
True.
Especially nowadays. I mean, just a quick off the topic. Now, bullying when we were kids was someone coming up, pushing you into a locker, whatever. They'd walk away. It was over. Now these kids go home and they get cyberbullied. They can't even get away from it. They go home and they just go on and check, say Facebook, and they're getting pounded on social media, this and that, and they just get it 24/7.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine that. I mean, there's no escape for these kids. And then when they do look for help, the parents that don't take the time, the 15 minutes a day, where do these kids turn to? They're looking around and there's no one there for these kids to reach out to vent, to just tell them how they feel, to cry, whatever it may be. That again, it goes back to the disconnect. There's no connection there within the family unit. It starts there. No matter what you say or what we go over, it starts with the family. Parents and children together working cohesively as a unit of love and compassion and communication. That's where it belongs. Without that, everything else is going to fail. Without that building block, everything else is going to fail.
I totally agree.
We have to get back there. We have to educate parents to, just take a moment, step back from your busy life, so-called, and look at what your kids are doing. Pay attention. Look for those signs. There are signs that go to all of these things: bullying, suicide, isolation, sleeping more. I mean, there are signs you can catch real easy if you just take a moment to step back and just look at your children and just make sure things are okay. Ask them how their day was. Ask them how school was.
Right.
It doesn't take more than a few minutes a day. I mean, you can't tell me that us as parents can't spend a few minutes a day to go out of your way to spend time with the children who that you supposedly love and care for and
wanted.
And wanted. I mean, we all say there's always one that was there was a mistake. Everyone wants to throw one of them in there except for Michael. He's only got 2, so there was no oops there. He's only got 2, so he's behind you and I. He's behind 1 or 2. So. No, but
I think letting go of the, being the disciplinarian, I see a lot of that, and it actually, sometimes it holds me back from saying things because I don't like to, get into arguments with people about how to raise their kids, but I see a lot of disciplinary stuff going on where parents just kind of become these dominant figures and they don't have a relationship with their kids. They're just really telling them what to do or punishing them or grounding them. And I think what that does is it disempowers them. And when kids feel disempowered and powerless, that's when they turn to drugs. That's when they turn to suicide, when they don't feel like they have any control or any power over their life. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing that I've let go in my parenting, is being this disciplinarian who's constantly punishing and grounding my kids when they don't do something to my liking, or clean their room or do their laundry or whatever. It's like letting go of all, and it's a power struggle. That's what it is. It's like we want to feel like we're in control. We want to feel like our kids listen to us. We want to feel like we're heard, which is, there's such a deeper thing going on there with that, wanting to be heard. So allowing yourself to actually have some compassionate communication, I think that is absolutely key.
Well, we have to let our kids know that they have a right to have their own opinion. Yes. And that's where it goes back to what you just said. If you're getting into that one-on-one, not confrontation, but conversation, You have to be a good listener. You don't have to be just the one talking, like you said, and just saying it. I'm right. I'm the parent. I'm this. I'm that. Take a minute to say, okay, you tell me how you feel.
Yeah.
Let your child come to you and tell them how you, again, there's no right or wrong, but you know what? Something they may say, we're always learning as parents and people as much as they are. You'd be shocked the way you can learn from your children. They know a lot more than we did at their age. I can tell you that right now. So if you just take the moment, I agree. And that goes even with me in the foundation and the events I deal with and the people. I try to just go up to these people and say, what can I do for you? Don't worry about how I started the foundation. It's not about me. It's not about my story. It's about how can I help you? How can I make your life a little easier or a little better, or maybe give you a hug or console you? Some of these people just want to vent and just get their feelings out there, and then you'll see them and they take this deep sigh like, wow, everything just unloaded and they feel
so much better.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, I think it's us, the three of us, the way we look at life is that we're comfortable. We know who we are. Like you said, we have that state of consciousness within ourselves that we know what we want to accomplish. We know what we have accomplished. We know what we've been through. We've done our trials and tribulations, and we've come out on the positive end of that. So if anything, we are, examples that no matter how down you're going to go, there's always a way to climb out. There's always a way to climb out. But you have to come within yourself to do that.
Well, and I think that was a good message of what you were saying about allowing people to vent. And I'm definitely guilty of this, of, when my kids tell me things, trying to fix their problems, trying to give them advice. I'm the coach, right? So when oftentimes my daughter would be like, I wish you didn't even know about the law of attraction, because I'm always like throwing, and they'll throw it back at me, but they throw it back at me,
Right.
So I think just allowing our kids to vent, like how many kids are able to just share how they really feel and to release those emotions that are causing all of these negative vibrations within them. I think that's a really, really good message, powerful message for parents to just be that, that listener. Sometimes they just want to be listened to. They don't want us to fix their problems. They just want to be listened to.
Well, that's the easy out. Like you said, punish them, send them to the room. That's our way of shutting it down, letting them know we're in control.
Yep.
And it shouldn't be about control. We're not out to control our children. We are not. That's not our position. I mean, we're not out there to control them. So, again, it does feed back to that. Punishing them is an easy answer, and all that is instilling fear in your children by punishing them. Or, in some cases, people do still strike their children. There are, unfortunately, that still happens. But instilling fear in them doesn't make them better people. It actually beats them down to the point where, again, this goes back to them moving forward into their relationship, and they're going to think that that's okay. Hey, this is what happened to me, so I'm going to shut this conversation down. I'm not going to let my wife speak. I'm not going to let my husband speak because that's not how I was brought up.
Right. Yeah, and then it becomes generational. Exactly,
and that's what I said earlier. The whole thing is breaking the cycle. We got to figure out how to break that cycle. We got to put a dent in that and bring it back to, again, my message would be for any parent, just sit down and watch this live cast. Even if you watch bits and pieces, listen to the messages, but really listen to it. Don't just hear us, listen to us, take something from it. I said to Michael a while ago, when you put your messages out there, I'm sure you do the same thing. When you listen to a good song, what gets you to get this? It's the hook. It's a word or a phrase. Something will get you, and they call it the hook. The same way you as a coach or me as a public speaker, you can always see the little mannerisms or the way somebody looked. You can see where you got them, where something hit, and that's where you connected, and then you'll build on that. So these parents just need to sit down and just watch part of this and just listen to the messages, and then when you're done, turn it off, sit there for 10 minutes, and just let it sink in a little bit. Not everything. We're not right. I'm not 100% right. Goldyn's not. Michael's not. We're listen. I'm no psychologist. I don't have a degree in any kind of medical field. I talk from the heart. I'm a regular guy who's been through a lot of shit, and I just put it out there. And you can take my advice, you may not. Hey, I'm an open ear. You can always call me. I tell people, message me directly. I don't care if I don't know you. You could be in Australia. You could be in California. If you need to talk, reach out. Hit me on Facebook. Say, listen, I'm going through this. Whatever. What do you have to help me? I'll help you the best I can. And that's what I try to bring to the table.
Love it.
The other day I was having a bath with Alexander, and he asked me a pretty full-on question. He's only 11, but he's very he thinks like an adult, and he comes out of the blue and he says, "Dad, what's legacy? What does it mean when someone says, my legacy?" straight away, I'm like, well, for me, as your dad, my legacy is when I'm gone and I leave this world, and one day you'll have your own family, that you'll think to yourself, what would dad do in this situation? Or like, remember how dad brought you up with mum, and that you'll think in your head, like, that was so beautiful how I was raised. That's how I want to raise my kids, you know. That's legacy. Now, for us as parents, you know, let's explore a little bit about what each one of your, you know, legacies may be for what you leave with your kids, those golden lessons that your kids will grow up with and pass on to theirs.
I think probably the biggest thing that I support in my children is them knowing their own voice, like knowing that inner voice, and not doing things that are not in alignment with the true essence of who they are. And I think I've done a really good job of each one of my daughters, you know, knowing who they are and being able to listen within for what really works for them. And I'm just figuring that out at 45, you know, and for them to know that at age 14, you know, to know who they are and to have strength in who they are and feel like they have some power and some say in the world that they live in. I think for me, that's probably because that's your connection. I just want them to be connected. I want them to know that connection. I want them to feel that connection. You know, we're not religious. We don't go to church. We used to. They know that infinite energy connection. I want them to see that in them, not only in themselves, but I believe they see it in me. I believe they feel it in me. And it's something that I spend a lot of time nurturing in my own relationship, and also getting them, you know, I'm always asking them, like, what do you feel? What do you want? Because I think, especially as women, we've got to help them to gain that strength and to know and have the confidence to stand up for themselves and not to be walked all over.
Good answer.
Thanks.
Jacque?
Well, I've always said that my legacy is the amount of people that I've helped over the years. I want someone to look back and say, you know what? He did a good thing. He tried. He made an effort to help as many people as possible. You know, I could have done a lot of other things, but I chose this path, and it was unfortunate my father passing led me to this path. But you know what? Through birth or through death, there was always rebirth, and I want to believe that through my father's death, the birth of 4S for Life came out of that, and it gave me a whole new perspective on doing things for others. And it was funny because my youngest boy, a while back, said to me, he wanted to know if I wanted to go to a Yankee game, a father-son. And he paid for everything, paid for the hotel, the tickets. Calls me up and he asked me if I wanted to go to a Yankee game. And he said, you know what, Dad? He goes, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And when your kids say something like that, let me tell you something. That was like, that blew my mind, that my son, of all people. And out of the three of them, he's probably the least outgoing, like as far as speaking in front of people or just saying the right thing. And he amazed me one more time, and that was actually we did a separate reception when we came back a couple weeks ago. And it was just friends or the wedding party and immediate family. They all watched the wedding video. And first person to stand up and do a speech was my son, Tyler. That's my youngest son. And it brought me to tears. 5 minutes, it's all he had to say. And you know what? He came out and he said, I'm glad you found someone to spend the rest of your life with. And it just, I mean, it was heartfelt. Those are those moments. And just like I said earlier with watching my son, those moments are the ones that I'll always cherish. And I said to my boys, these are the memories. That day at Yankee Stadium, I told my son Tyler, I said, you'll never understand what that day meant to me. More than anything else that I've ever done, that day right there, the love between me and him and just hanging out, the two of us, as father and son, as best friends, whatever, that was the best feeling. And at some point, he'll get it. But right now, he didn't understand what that meant to me. That meant the world to me. So I think it's all about making memories. Don't worry about making money. No one's going to remember you for your $300,000 home or your $50,000 Range Rover or any other bullshit you buy with money. They're not going to remember that. They're going to remember you as a person, the way you were as a parent, the way you were as a friend, the way you were as a husband or a wife. those are all the things, and all those memories, trips with your kids, trips with your other halves, those special times, birthday parties, weddings, anniversaries, all those times, memories. Take pictures, make videos. You want that. You want them to look back on those times and just, even if they cry through them, they're going to remember. It's going to bring up something within them. And I think that actually will help our children, my children, even Goldyn's, yours, and that'll help them grow as people, because that's just going to make them stronger. They're going to relive all those special moments that they did, and it's going to bring everything back to what Michael said. What would Dad do? They're going to remember something. Hey, I remember this one time when Dad stepped in and he did this, or Mom stepped in. It's one positive cycle, as opposed to, we were talking about negative cycles. All this is more toward the positive. So all about memories would be my legacy, just to leave my mark on as many people as possible in the most positive way I can.
What about rules? Rules in the house as parents?
Man, that opens up a whole different can of worms.
Let's talk about rules.
Wow.
Rules are made to be broken.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we're at a point where there's an understanding. I want to say there's not necessarily rules anymore, because they're beyond rules. They're adults, so we now are in a situation where it's more, there's an understanding about the way we conduct ourselves. And does it always work? Probably, not always, but for the most part, it's like there's respect between one another. But my kids are not calling me to rules right now. They really aren't. They're pretty well behaved kids. I have a 16-year-old. There's no curfew. She gets home by 11. She's just, my 14-year-old. That's probably, rules might come back into play with her. But right now there's this beautiful communication between us, where they know what the expectation is. We had a little bit of a scare a while back, maybe 6 or 8 months ago, where I was concerned that some drug use might be popping up. And you know what? I pulled her in, and I just loved her more. I just gave her more love than, instead of punishment, I gave her more love, and I pulled her in closer instead of punishing her. And I told her my stories, and I told her about stories that I know of people who are caught up in drug use. Told her stories about people I know that are caught up in, Mike has family members that are, addicted to heroin and things like that, and what happened to their lives. So I really, really communicated, and it made a profound difference. She was hanging out with kids that I didn't approve of, didn't really see, and we really had open communication about the life that she lives and the parents that she has, and the difference between her life and these kids that were skipping school and smoking pot and vaping and all of that stuff. And I know kids are gonna, explore. But the one thing that I came to really give her this message was, I just want you to live the best possible life, and I want you to be at your fullest potential. And I feel like when you entertain things like that, it's possible you're going to get pulled down a road that's not going to lead you to your greatest potential. And I think that really sunk in for her. And she made a complete turnaround and started doing better in school and stopped hanging out with those kids. And the basis of all of it was really giving her more love, more love, instead of pushing her away or making her feel ashamed for her decisions, just loving her more. So rules, yeah, we don't really have rules. They know what's expected, and if I see stuff going on that I don't think is going to lead them down a good road, I'm going to be extremely communicative about it. We're going to really talk, and we're going to talk for a long time. So they feel, I think that both my kids feel very open about coming to me about stuff, because there is none of this punishment or grounding or, things like that. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's working for us. So I'm going to say it's right for us.
What about you, Jacque?
Well, my sons are sort of the same age as Goldyn's. Actually, my oldest one's 29, so they don't really have any rules anymore. But I learned as they got older that it wasn't so much that Dad was pissed off or mad at them. I learned that when I told them I was disappointed with them, it crushed them. Because the thing is, they always wanted to look good in your parents' eyes. So when you tell them you're disappointed and not yelling, just say, listen, you know what? I'm really disappointed in the choice you made. You can see, and especially my youngest one, his head would drop, and it crushed him. And I was able to affect him that way without having to yell. I mean, I'm not going to say that I didn't yell, because I did. There are times where you come to that wit's end where you're out of your mind. You're just like, ugh! You know, I mean, it happens. Let's be honest.
Because they're assholes, right?
Exactly. And teenagers, as Goldyn pointed out, you know what? Honestly, Goldyn, I think Michael's just trying to get some pointers from us as the kids get older. He's probably got a scratch pad going, okay, this is what they said to do. That's why he's asking these questions. No,
I think he's mortified that we said we don't have any rules.
He's gonna get off of here and go to Tracy and go, I don't know why I had those two on. My God. I might need a beer after that. But no, I don't think that, as long as you're not overly strict. I think some parents take it to an extreme where it's almost like being a drill sergeant in a boot camp.
Power struggle, yeah.
I mean, I don't think you need that. I mean, certain things at certain ages, I think, yes, you have to have. But it depends on where your kids are at. I mean, I was lucky. My kids never got into hard drugs. I know one of them's, tried pot, which I know that. And I know all three of them have drank before. They've tried alcohol. I know that. There was even times that, they were at, my house, and they were maybe not legal age, but I always told them if they were at my house, I took the keys, and if they wanted to drink with Dad, they could have a few drinks with Dad, but you're staying at my house. It was just being conscious about, the decisions and leading by example the best way you can. And because they'll call you out, believe me, when your kids get older, they'll call you out on stuff. There's no shame in that. You do something you told them not to do, and the next thing you're getting it right back, and you're going, well, I saw you do it, and the first thing they'll tell you. So, I don't think you need rules and regulations. I think it goes back to if you bring them up in a loving household and you show them every emotion, and you don't hide anything, you're an open book. If you put all those into play, most times or not, I think you'll be okay. And I don't think you really need, a couple here and there, but I don't think you're going to need extreme rules that some of these parents go to. I think it's just, it's a control thing. I think some parents have a problem with control. And I think that's what they think parenting is about, and that's not what it's about. We don't control them. They're not caged animals. They're human beings. I mean, they have emotions and feelings and opinions just like we do. So we need to take that into consideration when you're so-called, quote-unquote, laying down the law.
Yeah, it's interesting because I could really go both ways on this, because I had a lot of rules with my older two. There was a lot of rules. There was chore charts. I think I might just be tired. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at both ends of it, and definitely more things got done with my older two. They had expectations and they had to clean, but I think at this point with these two and the age that they're at, it's just, I just don't want to fight with them anymore. I don't want to be in that, trying to make them fit into my little box.
I think I agree with you to
little house.
No, but listen. Now, here's where I agree with you. I agree that chores are okay, but I never thought of chores as a rule and regulation. I thought chores were just the way we were brought up, because I think it gives you a sense of purpose. It gives them a sense of being, that they're doing their part in the house. Like, real quick example was my mother battled cancer for 10 years, and as we were younger, she started getting me. My mother and I had a really good relationship, so she started getting me into doing like the laundry and grocery shopping. And I didn't really put it in her perspective. And as it became closer to the end, and after she had passed, and my sister said to me, she goes, "You know why Mom was doing that? She was getting you prepared to take on these responsibilities." And I didn't look at it that way. I just thought, okay, Mom's giving me more responsibility. But my mother was very smart. She made sure everybody knew what was going on and how to take care of it, because she knew my father was going to need the four of us. But things like that, chores, I just don't consider them rules. I just consider them a part of, like you said, contributing. So take the chores out of it. I wouldn't consider that a rule. I just consider that giving them a purpose, and they feel like, hey, I helped Mom out, or I helped out. It gives them a sense of pride, and again, that builds up their self-esteem and their self-worth, and makes them feel like a stronger person. So I think that chores are actually a solid thing to do. But I still say that all parents should give your kids chores.
Agreed. I agree. And they should be doing their old laundry when they're teenagers. That was something that I gave up recently.
Listen,
and you know what? There's a lot of dirty laundry in her room, but I'm not washing it.
Listen, I was an athlete. I'm not touching my son's clothes as a teenager. No, I'm good. You can, no.
Yeah, especially boys.
No. Boys are pigs.
Yeah.
Bottom line, teenage boys are slobs. Hey.
That is gold.
What do you got back there? A visitor? Michael, look behind you. What
Got
do you got?
somebody who's just come
Somebody's
in.
bucked in.
We've got Tracy.
Oh.
Just
Trying to
popped
hide.
in.
She's trying to hide back there.
She's going to get her hair done.
Oh, yeah?
She's
Hi,
going to get
Trace.
more blonde put in.
Oh.
Everyone's saying hi, Trace. Give us a wave.
Give us a wave.
I was like, leave me alone.
Hey, she walked into view. That's her fault.
That's right.
Yes, that's it. So, okay, I think we're as a final thing here, we're touching on, we're all on the same page that rules are not really the way to go. I think you're both touching on the same thing when it comes to raising kids. If they're just loved, if love is the common denominator, they know that, and they're free to be themselves. They're accepted, and they're allowed that room that they can kind of work out what's going on if they feel loved. That they've got that confidence as themselves to make mistakes. And I think when Goldyn shared what happened with her daughter, that in that moment where she could have become the authority figure, she actually just really opened her heart up to her daughter and just loved her. And the response was bang, immediate. That's such a beautiful thing. And I think as parents, that is a huge lesson for all of us. So if we can just maybe touch on, as a final thing for the audience today, that love truly is the common denominator here, that it really can provide the best possible answer every time for our kids, even when it's so challenging. I think we can leave a final message for each one of you in that respect for our audience.
I would say I think the opposite of love is fear, and to not parent through fear. There's so much going on in our world and so many things for us to be afraid of and concerned. But when you really realize that your child's journey is their journey, and there's nothing that you can do to change that. We all have this certain amount of breaths that we're going to take, and even all the things that have been happening in our world, and it makes our world so much more uncertain. It's easy for us to parent through fear and to be afraid that our kids are going to turn out a certain way. But if instead we can turn ourselves in the direction of loving them more and parenting from a place of love and acceptance, and knowing that their journey is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and it's turning out and it's becoming exactly what they were meant to be. And if we can let go of the need to control and the concern for what we have, the way we thought things were going to be for them, and just really embrace the journey that they're on and love the person that they are, I think that it will empower them to become all that they're meant to be.
Jacque?
Oh, I'm still caught up in her answers, so I just like listening to her talk. That's all. No, it is good. It's really good because it's before I get to my final thought, because it's normally one-on-one, or it's me and Michael, and it's nice to have the female perspective, and I think that's important. Even on my podcast, we're going to have some female guests, and I think it's important to get both ends of that. I mean, even from parenting, a mother or father, we look at things a little bit differently, being male and female in the way we raise. I think we're on the same page 99% of it, but I still want to get that female perspective. So when I actually reached out to Michael and I said, can we do it? Is there any way we can do a three-way? He's like, oh my God, yeah, that's a great idea.
That's so cool.
So, it was great to have you on. It was great to pick your brain and listen to what you had to say, because it was very informative, very intelligent, very intuitive. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
A final thought. I think it goes back to, I think every parent should watch this podcast, and feel free to watch it with your kids. I think there's a lot of information here. I think us as parents and them as children, I think we could all learn from this. not to say that the child will sit there and go, well, see, she said that and he said that. But
No rules, Mom. No rules.
No. Yeah, no rules. That's what he said. But just that way they can both see it. I think it's important that the parents see what we have to say and the children have to see. And maybe, at the end of that, you watch a little bit of this and sit down as a family. There's your family time, right? And sit down and go over this thing and say, okay, listen, Tommy or Sally or whatever, hey, what did you learn from that? What did you take from that? Depending on their age, obviously, but middle age to high school. What did you take from that conversation? What did you learn anything, or is there anything that you want to do? Give me your input on it. Ask them first, and then give your, the way you look at things, and then maybe have a little bit of a discussion. I think that will open up that dialogue that we're all pushing right here to
I love that.
Open the connection and open that communication back up. This is a great starting point. So everyone that watches this, please, share this. I'm sure I'll share it. Goldyn, Michael, we'll all share this, continually. And I think it's important that's the best message I give. Watch the live.
I love that. That is so, you know what? That's one thing that I think that we do really well is when we're having challenges with them, we sit them down and we talk about the challenge and how they can help us to solve the challenge. Because if we're the ones that are trying to figure it out, we don't have all of the equation. It's like, why aren't you getting up on time to go to school? Why are we making the morning so stressful? And really communicating with them, I think that is the best message in this whole podcast.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Goldyn, where can people get in touch with you?
My website, www.goldynduffy.com, and it's Goldyn with a Y. And that's where my M21 revolution is, right on my website. If you just click on that, you'll see we're starting a new challenge on May 28th. And basically, we're going to teach you how to meditate. We're going to teach you how to become mindful. We're going to help you to release some lower emotions and take you on a journey of getting to understand and learn who you really are and the answers. I mean, we have people changing their lives, like everything in their lives, because they realize that nothing is working, and they're doing complete overhauls, and the joy and the expression and the abundance that people are experiencing just from being a part of this for 21 days has pretty much blown my mind. I don't think I saw the power of that, or the power of the community support that we have being a part of that. It's a private Facebook group. We post every single day, and we post videos a few days a week. It's my partner, Jess, my friend, Jess, and myself that just offer a lot of intuitive wisdom. There's definitely divine inspiration that's coming through both of us whenever we're posting videos, and people are feeling that and sensing it. And it's, oh my gosh, it's just the most exciting thing I've ever been a part of.
And Jacque, where can people get in touch with you online? Well, first off, I'm going to go to California and listen to one of her talks.
You don't have to. It's all online. It's all online. But you can come to California. You have an invitation.
My brother lives out in Camarillo, so.
Okay. I'm not sure where that is. I'm in Orange County.
I think it's about a half hour or so from LA. It's not really nice area, but he lives out that way, and I loved it when I went out and visited. It was great out there.
Come on out.
I got to go to Australia first to go visit Michael there. So at some point, actually, my brother's over there now, I think.
Me too.
You can reach me. Obviously, the website is 4sforlife.com. We have a Facebook page set up, and you can watch my podcast if any of you are interested, or anybody on the Awakening Point. It's on the Earplug Podcast Studio, or it's on iTunes. It is available on iTunes. So, yep, you can find me all over the place. Wonderful, guys. I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Goldyn and Jacque. It's always such a pleasure to just open up and interact online live, which makes it so much warmer and so much more beautiful for people to watch, other than a recorded message. I hope you guys get some good interactions from this LiveCast today and in the coming days and weeks, and I really, really look forward to having both of you on again as you're becoming regular experts and coaches on the LiveCast. I really, really appreciate you both, and of course really appreciate all of the audience who have taken the time to sit down, view, take in, be a part of this, interact with myself, with Goldyn, and with Jacque. So from the three of us, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys again very, very soon. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.